Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for making out time from your very busy schedules to join us this morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Healthcare Nigeria Conference 2018. As convener of the conference, Hygia HMO Limited is extremely proud of the confidence that you have reposed in us, which is the basis of the partnership that has given life to this idea to establish an open and neutral platform where critical discussions that lead to demonstrable outcomes for the Nigerian health sector can happen. We are particularly glad for the presence of various industry participants, hospitals, pharmacies, diagnostic operators, HMOs, consultants, financiers, employers of labor, and patients too. The inaugural conference in 2017 was very well attended, and some of those present today were at that conference. The focus was on the patient and ensuring that quality care is equivalent to what the patient actually needs. This year, our focus is on providers. That is the supply side of the discussion. While this is no way to suggest that the issues on patient-centered care have been exhaustively discussed, we do need to see that there is a balance in terms of achieving some equilibrium between demand and supply side discussions. Based on the feedback on the compactness of the conference last year, we took the bold step of making this a two-day event to allow more room for conversation, networking, and even exhibitions so that there is a deeper understanding of what is available in the marketplace today. Please feel free and ensure, actually I advise it, that you go to the exhibition area behind us to meet some of the most innovative companies in healthcare as they showcase some of the things that they have on offer. This morning, I walked around myself and saw some of the people and the things they were showing, and I can assure you that some of the exhibitors are not playing games. Some of them are very serious, and some of the things that you see there are things that you probably did not know were in this country. The theme for this year's conference, Sustainable Healthcare, the Roadmap, was derived from our current day reality, where it is no longer sufficient to have potential or hope or desire. We need a real and immediately executable action plan at the level of each operator or participant in the healthcare value chain. The existential challenge that we face as a people due to the prevalence of basic sanitation-driven diseases, combined with the explosion of the incidence of non-communicable diseases amidst an environment with high maternal and infant mortality, means that without corporate and individual action, we will see a reduction rather than an improvement in the life expectancy of the average Nigerian. We should do our best to avoid this outcome. That is one reason why the conference is focused on highlighting actions being taken by various participants in the health value chain to support the extension of healthcare access to more people in Nigeria at affordable rates. We can already see corporate action. Afrexim Bank has stepped into the fray with demonstrated commitment to financing the health sector and reducing medical tourism in Nigeria. Swiss Re is also and is focused on micro-health insurance in Nigeria, while the Medical Credit Fund, a member of the Farm Access Foundation, has developed innovative financing solutions for expanding access to quality care and medicines across the country. These are but just a few of the largest corporates taking bold and decisive actions towards sustainable healthcare in Nigeria. Over the 2 days of the conference, we will be updated on the roles of the key players in Nigeria's healthcare value chain and opportunities that exist to improve health outcomes and businesses in Nigeria today. The breakout sessions in the afternoon of day one are expected to provide deep insight into areas of interest in the industry. We will hear of the progress made by in the rollout of its state health insurance scheme when the Honorable Commissioner for Health for Lagos State speaks on day 2. We'll also hear about sustainable structures to provide access to health care in specific areas. The approach adopted by Sulaj Foundation to provide access to health care in specific areas, the approach adopted by Sulaj Foundation to leverage existing industry participants. A quest to provide a better life for indigent children living with sickle cell anemia disorder is both innovative and worth considering. In fact, I would actually tell you that when you listen to the Sulaj presentation tomorrow, for those that cry, hold your tissue or your handkerchief. For those that are bold and like to take action immediately, be prepared to act, because these people are doing something really special in the country. And of course, we will look at what is changing and available with technology that allows us to reach many more people at reasonable costs. Finally, our culture and the prevailing practice of being dismissive towards mental health must also improve. This is why we have a session focused on the many dimensions of mental health that will hold tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to pay attention to the discourse and to participate as required, and I trust that our speakers and panelists over the 2 days will help to enlighten all of us and stimulate us to action towards sustainable healthcare in Nigeria. As is typical these days, please also share what you are learning and who you're meeting on social media. You can use the hashtag Healthcare Nigeria. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Towards ensuring this particular conference come to Nigeria every year, started 2017, and I was also the host of that event. I had a brilliant experience, and this is bigger. It's obviously, we have an amazing set of panelists coming up shortly, and you'd absolutely love them as well. All right, so before we go into the thick of things, once we step out of this room, when we go left, that's where we have the restroom. The gentleman is directly beside that of the ladies as well. So do well to feel free to go to ease yourself as you deem fit. Speaking of ease, we would like to thank everyone that is here at this point in time for allowing us ease into your schedules and itineraries for the next 2 days thereabout. So quickly go into this morning's discussion as early as possible. Check. The first topic of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that is well sat before us this beautiful morning, will be delivered from the lips of an outstanding gentleman, a man who was at the 2017 edition, and I remember how well he delivered, and yet again is here this morning. The very first delivery will be made on building a sustainable health ecosystem, the roles of hospitals, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers will be taken very shortly. But Mr. Obini Abajwe made mention of something towards the end of his conversation, his welcome address that is, about the social media influence. Yes, this event is absolutely live on social media platforms across board. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Do well to follow and mention at the Healthcare NC, the with a capital letter T, Health with a capital letter H, and NC in both capital letter, one word, the Healthcare NC. On Instagram, please follow, like, and comment at the Healthcare NC as well. You need to tweet your experience, your pictures as well, because I have good news, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a bringer of good news, especially when Nigeria HMO is concerned. The highest retweet, the highest likes, the highest comment will be going home smiling big time. I heard it. I do not want to let the cat out of the bag, but I'm tempted. You know what? Let me just place it on you. The highest retweet, the highest likes, the highest comment will be smiling home with the star prize of, that lady is smiling. I see you smiling. Ladies and gentlemen, the star prize of LED TV, just for tweeting. So this is the time for you to start calling your village people, your friends, your neighbors, your household people. Follow me, and retweet whatever it is that I retweet. If you see IGEA HMO, if you see healthcare NC, just retweet. Remember, whatever experience you have, remember to hashtag the healthcare Nigeria. This man needs no hashtag. This man needs to just come to this podium and do justice to this topic as usual. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on building a sustainable health ecosystem, the roles of hospitals, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers, I give you Dr. Olamide Okulaja from the Farm Access. Thank you very much, sir. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. It's always good to be able to speak to people on how to improve the healthcare ecosystem of our country. Very quickly, what I'm supposed to talk about is, very quickly we'll go to the presentation, and I'm supposed to be talking about building a sustainable ecosystem. If this presentation was to focus on Lagos State alone, it will be a very different presentation, but it's focusing on Nigeria. The reason why I say so is because in Lagos State, we usually have a very jaded perception of healthcare delivery. Lagos State accounts for 11% of the entire population in Nigeria, and out of the 11%, you have about 66.9% living below the poverty line. So a lot of times, when a lot of people in this room view healthcare, they see it from a very different angle than a lot of Nigerians. And so I have been tasked with talking about how to build a sustainable ecosystem in Nigeria. And one of the first things I always do when I'm to talk about something like this is to look at the definitions of things exactly. So I quickly went on to look at the definition of being, what does sustainable mean? And what does an ecosystem mean? Because a lot of times, defunct primary healthcare centers, revitalize them and deliver services to the health insurance scheme. One of the things about this scheme is that we were not even looking at individual doctors. We were looking at established facilities like, you know, the St. Nicholas's, the Reddingtons, and say, look, instead of you putting your hospitals under this scheme, why don't you take over one of these defunct facilities, revitalize it, and deliver service to a health insurance scheme? At that level, healthcare begins to become sustainable. We also looked at medical equipment leasing scheme. If, for example, God forbid, my mother was to require some MRI or CT scan, we'll require a family meeting or, you know, a conference call of all the siblings to say, mommy is going for MRI scan. So we need contribution because not one person can carry it. But what if we live in a society where you can get an MRI scan for 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira? Is that possible? Of course, because we walked over to the Lagos State government and said, look, is it possible that the annual capital expenditure you use on equipment, you put it into a leasing scheme and equip all your secondary facilities with state-of-the-art equipment and deliver service to the public? It was approved. It's undergoing implementation. At that level, it becomes sustainable. We went into the pharmaceutical sector and said, look, how can we achieve a value chain in the pharmacy sector that is sustainable and can be strengthened by facilitating some form of financial access? If you look at the number of pharmacies we have in this country, or pharmacies that are practicing, they're about 5,000. However, we have about 950,000 PPMVs. Is there a possibility that we can leverage on the access of these PPMVs as against their technical ability? Can we train them, build them up, and enable them to be able to provide services that can feed into a health insurance scheme? Of course we can. So we started working with the PCN and PSN, and we now have a framework that allows that to happen. We also talked about how can we link health insurance to a pharmacy delivery system or a laboratory delivery system. We also brought about an innovation that was proposed to Lagos State and some other states, and that also is happening. And as we are implementing these initiatives, and as we are looking at all these initiatives, we are putting them and replicating them across the state. But one of the most important things that I want to bring to you today, and as I end, is that we must begin to look at what we can do with what we have, as against always advocating for more. Governments have made a huge decision, and trust me, in this economic climate, it is very difficult to say, look, we are going to institute a demand-side component of healthcare service delivery. It is up to us as the hospitals, as the providers, as the pharmacists, as the laboratory to put our house together to see how we can effectively and efficiently deliver these services to this demand that has been created at the most and least cost that can happen. In other words, being technically efficient. Thank you very much for listening to me this morning.
Thank you, sir. That was the voice of Dr. Olamide Okulaja, a man of many parts, but most importantly for today, is representing Farm Access. Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, two things I would like to mention is that this event is very much live on social media, like I said, and maybe I probably need to also make a little bit of adjustment to my prizes, okay? So I've been told I've got 2 star prizes, okay? So the LED TV is going for the raffle ticket, okay? And I've been told, I went over to the exhibition stands actually, and I saw something amazing. So yes, I can confirm to you that the highest likes and highest tweets will be having a special voucher at the mobile spa, and you need to go see what that looks like, guys. You're going to thank me later. And speaking of thanks, it's high time we thanked the gentleman, Dr. Olamide Okulaja. I'd like the honor of having Mr. Obini Abajwe to please come present a plaque of recognition to your person. Please come forward, sir. I wanted you to do exercise by going to your seat and coming back. I didn't want you to just stand there. Please put your hands together for Dr. Olamide Okulaja. Please come forward, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think it best fits somewhere here because Dr. Olamide, you'll be joining the, of course, the panel. Of course, there will be a panel probably, which is right here immediately after your speech. Thank you so very much. That's a recognition award right there for being absolutely spectacular. So take your seat, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Obinia. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's getting to that point, that crescendo where we get to hear juicy submissions by the panel. And of course, Dr. Olamide Okulaja is already sat. And at this time, I'd like to invite to join him in filling this seat from Reddington Hospital, Dr. Onobowale. Dr. Onobowale, please come forward to join the panel. Oh, okay, so Dr. Onobowale just stopped out. Okay, it's fine. We also have from Advantage Africa, Abimbola Adebaki. Good morning, ma'am, please. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. If you may, please. Thank you very much, my lady. You could probably sit at that. Okay, anywhere you choose to. Brilliant. We're good. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Are you comfortable there? Okay, all right. Just so we're clear. For my dear HMO, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Obinna Ukachukwu. It's the panel session. It's all about discussion now. Thank you very much, Obinna. Obinna is an executive with the IGEA HMO, And if I told you were at the Aegeas retail launch last year, Obina had an amazing animation of a certain Malam Musa. I'm sure you don't remember yourself, but I do remember. I remember good things. Speaking of good things, from farmer investor Iroko Capital, I give you a good man in Ken Ofulwe this morning. Ken Ofulwe, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Ken. Yes, please. Yes, please. Where would you like him to sit? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I also give you at this time Dr. Olabode. He will be representing Dr. Onobowale, or Onobowale, I beg your pardon, from Reddington Hospital. Dr. Olabode, please. Olalude. Lalude. Forgive me. Dr. Lalude, please. Thank you very much. If somebody had called me a wrong name, I won't stand up as well, because I believe it's not my name they are calling. I sincerely apologize. Dr. Lalude. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you, Doc. Please take your seat, sir. Speaking of wrong names, if you look at page number 7 of this particular program, bottom right, if you know the printer that printed this program, just give me his house address, because my name is Babajide Guerrero, and he rechristened me to become Babajide Guerrera. So I understand, Dr. Olalude, if you refuse to stand up, but I just have to do this event because I won't get paid if I don't. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Dr. Cheluchi Onyemelekwe. Did I get that correctly? I didn't, so I'll try again. Dr. Cheluchi Onyemelukwe. I think that's perfect. Thank you. Please come forward from Center for Health, Ethics, Law, and Development. Dr. Cheluchi, please. Dr. Cheluchi, is she around? Or is he around? Is she around? To think that I didn't get the name correctly, and we already clapped. All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman that would coordinate this panel discussion is an outstanding gentleman, one of great intellect and one of great presence as well. I give you the irrepressible, Ayo Adio. Please put your hands together for Ayo this morning. Thank you very much, Ayo. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Okay. I'll probably drop this microphone, and you can use that one. I'll drop this on the table, depending on where. Gentlemen, please come. You would probably just stand somewhere here and be passing the microphone. Thank you.
I believe we'll be having very, very interesting discussions and conversations on the topic sustainable healthcare, the roles of doctors, pharmacists, and diagnostic centers. Very quickly to the panelists, I like to crave your indulgence to forgive me ahead of time because we're pressed for time, so I might cut you before you finish setting thoughts. It's not because I'm rude, it's just because I'm pressed for time. So I do hope we have very interesting discussions. So the discussion for this panel is the role of hospitals, pharmacists, and diagnostic centers towards a sustainable healthcare. And I'd like to start very quickly with Dr. Okulaja, a fantastic presentation you had there. And the crust of your discussion was the fact that there was very insufficient funding in our healthcare system in Nigeria. And I quickly like to ask a question, because sometimes we talk about the GDP to budgetary allocations to health, and sometimes it's not about the percentage of the GDP allocation, but the size of it actually in terms of the contribution to the healthcare. What would you say will be the benefit of the 1% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund that the Senate has allocated to healthcare funding in Nigeria?
Do you want an on-record or off-record answer? think I should do the on-record answer.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm very excited about the 1% that has been allocated to healthcare by the federal government through the Senate. But at the same time, I have my concerns. And the reason why I have my concerns basically is because of the issue that happened with Tanzania, for example. And one of the things I was mentioning, or that I tried to emphasize is, you know, maybe the solution is not exactly increasing financing. And I know that's controversial, but maybe the solution is building frameworks and sustainable ecosystems that can absorb the financing. Because if that money is released and it does not impact positively, then we may not get it again. But if we have frameworks that have shown that we can, you know, create systems that can, you know, release positive outcomes, and then it is fueled by this 1%, then of course the effect will be exaggerated when the money is utilized. So the solution for me, like I would always say, is fine, an increase in financing for healthcare is good, but we also need to consider the mechanisms of how these monies will be spent.
Great. I'm talking about mechanisms. I mean, I think of no other person but Abim Bolade back in here because of your background in development. Of course, we know, or rather, that the United Kingdom spends about 140 billion pounds every year on healthcare. And of course, 80% of that money is from contributions and taxpayers' monies to ensure that sustainable healthcare is built. And if we have to draw from what Dr. Okulaja has just said, that it's not just about increasing funding, but the systems and processes put in place, I mean, the frameworks to absorb this funding, that is also an issue. What kind of framework would you advocate that can be integrated in the healthcare system to ensure that even if we increase funding to the healthcare system, it will reach Kombozo local government, it will reach Chiroma, it will reach Agatu, for instance?
Thank you very much. So I absolutely agree with Dr. Kulaja that it's not really a matter of increasing funding. We will need increased funds, but we need to get the foundation right. And that foundation rests on systems, processes, and people. On the issue of systems, we must build things that outlive the individuals that initiate them. And if you do that, that means you are building with a future in mind, a future state from the beginning. So you're using certain principles that are predictable. You're using tested methods. You do a pilot and then you scale up. So we must introduce systems that work in other industries and bring it here. So it's not rocket science. We're not going to create a new system per se. I think we can leverage what exists elsewhere and bring in here. So medical professionals really ought to begin to do more of learning from others. I like the fact that Dr. Kulaja went to Tanzania. So you can look at the context there and then see what has happened. But I'd also love us to look at the financial sector. I'd love us to look at telecoms. I'd love us to look at the arts, culture, entertainment, and see what is working for them and bring some of those in here. One of the things that has worked for the banking industry, for example, is that they collaborated when they needed to do strategic investment in the sector. A First Bank, for instance, realized it was going down if it did not go up, you know? And so there was an intervention about e-banking and all that. But they knew that they needed a switching platform. They needed something at the center to aggregate and then scale up. And they came together with a lot of other banks and set up an InterSwitch. Today, hardly do you go using the traditional methods that we had 15, 20 years ago to bank. You now all rely on electronic media to do your normal day-to-day. That would not have happened if there was no collaboration and a recognition that no one entity is able to do it. I'd love us to leverage such examples. The telecoms started up erecting masts all around. Today, they're collaborating in sharing. Shared services is the way forward for us to build credible, sustainable ecosystems. On people, we must begin to recognize that if you pump in more money, you're going to have more wastage unless the people's skills are enhanced.
Okay.
People right now within our sector need much more exposure to the business of healthcare than just the practice at the front end.
Okay.
So that's what
I'd
I'll
like
say
to
now.
draw Dr. Shaluchi into the conversation here. He's not here? Oh, really? Okay, great. All right. Let me draw Dr. Onabowale into the conversation. Is he here? Lalude is here. Okay, he's representing Onabowale. Okay, great. So let's have Dr. Lalude here for Reddington Hospital. If you look at the definition of hospitals, because I like the fact that he started his presentation with the definition of the term sustainable ecosystems. The definition of hospitals in itself is a healthcare center where healthcare practitioners deliver healthcare services to patients. But it does seem like in Nigeria, just like pharmacists are synonymous to the pharmacy, or diagnostic centers are the corridors for lab sciences, it does seem like hospitals are for doctors. And in that case, every other health practitioner under hospitals seem a bit repressed in the hospital space. So I'd like to ask a very direct question. What are the specific roles of doctors in hospitals?
Well, historically, doctors have led the healthcare team and have had a prominent part to play in hospitals, both as practitioners and latterly more as managers. In the past, the management in most hospitals was administrative. However, we are involving doctors more in healthcare administration and the business of medicine. I think one thing to emphasize is that in modern medicine, it is multidisciplinary. Therefore, there is an equivalent role for most healthcare professionals, and indeed, a hospital that does not utilize to the full the capabilities of all of its staff, not just the doctors, will not function properly. So, for instance, in the UK now in the NHS, the post of Director of Nursing Services is actually an Executive Director's position, and that person has a significant role to play in actually running the hospital and directing certain services such as quality assurance, and not just looking after the nurses. What you also find is that there are other roles to develop, such as nurse practitioners in place of doctors who are educated to master's level in their specialties and provide care in place of doctors for quite a few patients. And these are models which actually don't exist really in Nigeria to a large degree.
I'm going to ask you two questions very quickly in succession. There's a problem wherein, doctors or hospitals have, pharmacists in their hospitals. Like the owners of hospitals have a pharmaceutical department and have a lab in their hospital. And when they make diagnosis, they force patients to pick up the drugs from the pharmacy in their own hospital. Is that the right thing to do, or patients have the right to take consulting from you and then go buy their drugs from somewhere else?
Well, the models in a lot of other countries is that there is those two things are not joined together. So you go to hospital, you get a diagnosis made. If you have a prescription, you have the right to do that elsewhere, to pick up your drugs elsewhere.
Yes.
But from a Nigerian perspective, I can see why that is done, because you have inadequate funding within the system, and it's a way of bolstering finances further. So that's mostly an economic / financial
But it does
decision.
seem like you're not spreading the wealth. The pharmacist who owns a small shop also wants a fraction of the pie. So if you raise your own consulting fee, for instance, and have the pharmacist earn, part of the revenue, I have to choose whether to come to Reddington or Okeafa Hospital and go and get my drug from the pharmacy. You get my point, sir?
Yes, I do. But the reality is that the level of compensation for consultation, for instance, in Nigeria is actually quite low, is relatively low. And it's a highly competitive market, although there's a disjunction between quality and cost.
Okay.
So you find that you are constrained in raising your consultation fee.
I'll get back to you on that. Let me quickly bring Mr. Obina from the HMO. And let me start by asking you a very direct question. Are the HMOs incapacitated? Do they have enough funding to cover, for most of the patients who buy healthcare packages from them? Because what we see most times is that hospitals have to cry because they don't get paid by the HMOs on time. Do you guys need a bigger reinsurance company to insure your HMOs?
No, we don't.
So why the delay?
I think the challenge is about pricing still. So because there's a very poor understanding of economics in the system, hospitals, HMOs, costing and benefits, most HMOs don't really understand where they start bleeding. And when you play in a market where you're bidding for a business, you're bidding, example, at 30,000 naira per year, and somebody else is there at 15,000, he's not done his numbers. He's just pulling everybody to the ground. So you see the entire market going towards that low amount, and eventually everybody starts bleeding, and I hope everybody does not bleed to death. I think that's part of the reason why we're doing this as HIGIA, to say, come guys, if you must do the business, then do it in a sustainable fashion. To do it in a sustainable fashion, you need to know what you need to bill, and when you don't need to, the levels you don't need to breach at all.
No, because I see it as it's a totally private sector regulated thing. The HMO is a private business. The hospital is a private business. Both of them are in to make profit. So I'm sure the doctors get their pricing right. The problem, because hospitals usually complain of liquidity, sometimes there's a glut in their liquidity because they are waiting for the HMOs to pay them back for services that they have rendered. And there is a delay in the payment from the HMOs. So that's where I really want to get at. Why is there that specific delay? Because what usually happens is hospitals now have to raise prices so that when you pay them, it's like doubling your normal consulting price. So when you have the money, it can keep you for a longer time. And then you also, at the end of the day, will now have to raise your premium for the people subscribing to your healthcare. So it's a vicious cycle. So if you pay on time, hospitals won't have to go through that quagmire.
Not necessarily. We probably would break down the reasons why people don't pay on time. It's basic cash conversion cycle. If someone has cash, he'd likely pay his cash on time. It's when he doesn't have cash, he would not pay the cash. And why will he not have cash? One reason, he doesn't have the money at all. The money he collected from people as premiums is finished. That's one reason. The second reason is that the people he's billing, he's serving, are not paying him on time. So you'd have scenarios where companies owe HMOs for 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, and they're accessing care every day. So those are the major two disjointed,
Okay.
two things that cause that disjoint.
We'll get back to that. Let me draw in Mr. Ken Ofule into the discussion. I believe you invest in pharmaceuticals and exactly. So my question to you is, you see, one of the most daunting problem with the healthcare is the cost of prescription drugs. What kind of interventions can you have in the healthcare system for us to see the cost of prescriptions go down so that people can afford these prices? 'Cause, I mean, most times I hear that a great percentage of our drugs are imported from outside the country, and so when the prices of crude, you know how we're dependent, when the dollar goes up, price of drugs also have to hit the roof. What kind of interventions can you do to make prescription drugs affordable across board?
Thank you. We are custodians of private capital. And what we try to do is to strip down the system, taking from the top, and you alluded to it in your statement originally, taking from the top, the policy and regulatory framework that govern the healthcare sector, okay? And then we'll look at the macroeconomic. For example, we have, depending on what number you're looking at, between 150 to 200 million people in Nigeria. That is a sizable chunk of people that are either needing preventive, curative, emergency, some kind of medical service that will result in either prescription or non-prescription drug. This is India of the 80s prior, until that they remember they had that critical mass of population that will need these services, and then provided the enabling environment for private capital to come in, invest fairly heavily in the pharmaceutical space, have it properly regulated without impairing competition. And what do you see now? In the US, close to 20-25% of all the medication you see, at least general medication, come from either China or they come from India. They have been able to build up enough capacity to feed the emerging demand. That is what we don't have. So I will go to the top first. The regulatory and the policy framework has to be in place and proper. The picture you showed, that showed a gentleman hawking drugs. There is nothing wrong with that if it is properly regulated and you make sure that he has the right drugs on his head. Unfortunately, nobody can account for him. So when I take my capital and I say, I want to invest, using the team here, we only look at this space from the strategic perspective, i.e., what is sustainable? In Nigeria, for example, we have what we call the essential drug list. And this is a list that has primarily generic formularies, so I don't have my Cadillac names on them, for example. If you want artemether lumefantrine, you should be able to get artemether lumefantrine from anywhere. But the only problem is the regulatory framework, the policy, and the enforcement of such allows different grades of artemether lumefantrine to penetrate the system.
Okay.
So you have the Cadillac guys pricing artemether lumefantrine at 2,000 naira per dose, and then you have the same gentleman pricing artemether lumefantrine for 100 naira.
Yeah.
The price averagely that should deliver good return to private capital and good service to the needy people should not be anything above 1,000 naira, for example.
Okay.
So at the top, that is what I will look
Okay,
at.
I'm sorry, I have to rush really, really fast because I need to squeeze you people because I'm out of time. I hear you talk about private capital injection into the healthcare system and where you want to put private sector money to allow for competition in the healthcare system. But is there not a problem wherein you cannot own a hospital if you're not a doctor, or you cannot run a pharmacist if you're not trained as a pharmacist, and you cannot run a laboratory if you're not a trained medical lab person? So how is my capital going to go into this healthcare if I'm not trained? So let me start by asking Doctor, is it the right thing to do for only doctors to be able to own or set up hospitals? Doesn't that stifle private investment?
It certainly does, and in a lot of other countries, that's not the case. So, I mean, obviously there has to be a regulatory framework, and all you need to do is to insist that the hospital is managed in a certain way, and you have certain positions within it which deliver that framework. But anyone with the money should be able to open a hospital, because it's a way to fund
Healthcare centers.
a building, and it's one of the reasons why we have a shortage of hospitals.
So, Mr. Bimbola, less than 5% of the people in Nigeria have insurance cover. And I look at countries who have made tremendous progress in delivering healthcare to its people. It's because government has had a very stiff policy of ensuring people contribute to the healthcare scheme in generally. Nigerians are a peculiar and a stubborn set of people who might not easily fall in line to this contributory scheme. So how do you think we can get people in local villages, design some sort of a financial model to capture their data to ensure that they contribute their tiny little bits into the entire pool so that there's something to take out of?
I'd say we should start with the 20% of Nigerians that are not poor. So everybody keeps focusing on the poor. And I say if you focus on systems that are largely for just the poor, by the poor, it's not sustainable. So if we're building a health system that is going to be sustainable, first of all, look at phasing it. So let us look at the 40 million individuals in Nigeria and render qualitative health insurance and health care to them. I bet you they will fund the 80%. I mean, Pareto's theory is not there for nothing. A 20% can fund 80%, and actually the 100% can happen.
So you want the 20% to fund
So start
the
with the
80%.
40 million
Okay.
and give quality
Healthcare across board.
across board.
Great. I come back to you, Dr. Okulaja. There is a problem in the healthcare system because we're talking about ecosystems where people can work together towards a common goal. But there's a clear problem with the ego battle in the healthcare system. The doctors want to lead, pharmacists say, no, we just spend 1 year less in school than you, and lab people. What's the answer to that equation? How do we get these three very important people in a room and ensure that they deliver perfect healthcare system? Should the answer be that we should have administrators above all of them so they can just do their health jobs?
Thank you very much. And I've been itching to hold this mic again. So hold on. This market has failed. And I think it's something that everybody in this room needs to let it sink in. And when I say failed, you know, I quickly, unfortunately, and that word is economics. And unless we begin to apply the laws of economics to this market, then it will continue to fail. One of the major causes of market failure is oligopoly or monopoly. And when I look at the HMO industry and I look at the provider industry, I see what is referred to as the Chamberlain's law of monopolistic competition. And I don't know how many people know about that, but basically it's an industry where different players come into, they set their prices irrespective of the other person's price, and they go into what is referred to as a product differentiation. When you say product differentiation, there are two types, vertical and horizontal. And please follow me. When you talk about horizontal differentiation, it means we are producing the same product, but your product is yellow and my product is blue.
30 seconds to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, I know. And then we go into a price competition. 15 naira, 14 naira. 12 naira, 11 naira. Until we get to an equilibrium, right? That is not enough to sustain the system. And that is the reason why people are delaying in payments. That is why providers are not providing the right quality of care. That is why it is only a doctor that can own a hospital and only a pharmacist that can own a hospital.
Yeah.
You see, so the entire framework on which our healthcare system is based is designed for it to fail.
I have 2 minutes. I need to
And
extract an answer from...
until we go to what he has said
Yes.
in terms of focusing on the policies that guide the framework, we will remain where we are.
So 2 minutes, 2 last questions for the both of you. Mr. Ken, simple question. Should government run hospitals? I wish Dr. Chelu was here. I wanted to ask her the very legal question. You hear doctors going on strike because of, setting financial obligations are not being met and what have you. Should government own and run hospitals, or should be a market-driven, it should be driven by market forces, where individuals own their hospitals, determine what you want to pay your doctors, and not a statutory fixated prices by the bureaucracy of government? So they are not held down by labor unions and what have you.
There are extremes that you should allow government to play within the health sector. But those are extremes. The critical mass should be private sector driven. The policy framework, regulatory framework should be by government. That's, I think, the simple answer.
Okay, so doctors do not need to be paid by the government, invariably?
Absolutely not. The value of a man's service should be dictated by the demand and supply of the
I hope Dr. Lande agrees with you on that. Do you think
Uh,
doctors have a right to be in labor unions, or to provide such an essential services where they do not need to go on strikes more?
Well, they do have a right, although in many countries there are restrictions on what they can actually do. So, I mean, in many countries you can go on strike, but that will be modified in some way. But I'll just very quickly say that I actually disagree. That I think that government has a role to play. So if we look at a highly successful government system like the NHS in the UK, which is run by government, because there are certain advantages to that. Having a unitary system where you can control cost. If you look at America, it's broken. It's highly fragmented, it's mostly private, and it's highly costly. If you look at the cost of delivery of care in the US compared to the UK, it's massively in excess.
Okay, I'd let Mr. Obena have the last word, and that's because you're representing Hygeia, and your name is all over the billboard here.
Okay.
So what exactly do you think is the magic bullet answer to this funding gap that you experience in the healthcare sector, particularly with regards to out-of-pocket expenditure, where, because most people have to pay at the counter when they want to access healthcare. How are you going to bridge that gap?
Many things to say in 30 seconds. But firstly, I'd like to, we must get the economics right. I always make people understand how grave our issues are by letting them know that you can hire a doctor in Nigeria after school for 100,000 naira or 90,000 naira a month. That tells you that the industry cannot be sustained because the people at the base, at the fulcrum of the industry, you can't pay, they are not paid. And the reason they can't be paid is that there's no money in the system. Why is there no money in the system? Because for all we care, the percentage of household income that goes into health on an average is actually low. It's low because people would rather buy bread, buy buy jerseys and the rest than pay for health insurance. I think if access to healthcare in all our public health systems today must be through an insurance system, then we will be sure that we would inject funds directly into the system, into the Nigerian healthcare system. So it's still insurance. And the government has a real big role to play. And that's why I tell everybody that cares to hear that we should support Lagos State in their bid to make everybody in Lagos State contribute to this particular
The Lagos State healthcare system is another debate for another day. Sadly, we don't have time to go into that, to engage with an intellectual judo for the Lagos State framework. It's so sad we have an extremely bright panel and no time to really squeeze the juice out of them. But one thing we have gotten from this discussion is the fact that the economics of our healthcare system is broken or almost broken, and the fact that we need Thank you very much for your time.
Gentlemen, please, you have to wait, including you, doctor. I think only Ayoadio should leave. Let's just take seats, please. Thank you very much. Phenomenal, absolutely. Well done. Yeah, just sit, just sit. Something is going to happen right now. Something good, actually. I think one of the things I've learned extensively is the fact that we all need to remove our mentality from the Lord is my shepherd and really put attention into healthcare. But Mr. Ken, yes, the Lord is my shepherd, after all. On a lighter mode, all right, I have a very funny way my head works. I mean, that's what makes me Babajide Guerrero. Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of his submission, because he made very lucid thoughts, I'm sure you guys were following, and there was a particular drug he mentioned. There was one drug he mentioned, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know. I heard so this is what you're going to do for me. You're going to slowly call that name. So when I get home, I can tell probably my wife or probably my family that I heard a new drug today that I've never heard in my life. So go ahead, sir.
Okay, so it's not a drug.
It's not a drug, in fact.
Hold on. You actually buy it every day, but you buy the name of the jacket, not the medicine. So I gave you the name of the medicine. Artemether lumefantrine, anti-malaria.
Why did I go to school? So all you said was anti-malaria. What did you say? Antinata. What was I say? Say that again.
Anti-malaria. Artemether lumefantrine is one of the anti-malarias you can take.
But in all fairness, guys, am I the only one that didn't know that? I'm the only one. I'm going on this job anymore. Remarkable stuff, ladies and gentlemen. That's the kind of intellect that we have here. So, just as we did to Dr. Olamide Okulaja, it's absolutely important that we extend the same love and felicitations to everyone here. So, Mr. Obinia, please step forward. Let's start with the, shall we? We'll be having an award presentation at the moment. We'll start with Dr. Onobowale, I believe, from Reddington. Absolutely. It is well represented by Dr. Lalude. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together. Of course, right after this, there will be pictures, absolutely important. I would like the photographers to please step aside as well so that we can have enough. Imbola Adebakin this time. Thank you very much. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together. Thank you. Thank you. Okachuko is next. This is a typical example of using Abu's money to do Abu visitor. This is Abu right here. Ladies and gentlemen, at the time, Mr. Afethebethefethalin, Mr. Ken Ofoloe. I'm not going to forget that. Since we all have our awardees, I would like you to please stand for a group photograph at this time, please. While carrying your plaques as well. Mr. Obina, you want to stand in the middle, even though you don't have a plaque. You are the one that gave everybody the plaque. It's fine. Thank you. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is what to be expected from a 2-day, absolutely enthralling event. This particular one, the Healthcare Nigeria Conference 2018. Would like Ayo Adio to please let's wait for Ayo Adio, the moderator, the panel moderator. Please come and join them, please. Phenomenal one. Please put your hands together for Ayo Adio. Awesome. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you. Ayo, you want to stay in the middle? You are the odd one here, you know. All these great people. Everybody wear jackets. Ayo, one native. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause one more time for our panelists and our moderator. Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you so very much. Mr. Ken, thank you, sir. Mr. Ken, darling. It's okay. I see some of our international guests there. I apologize for probably not taking you along in my little way, but let me say in Espanol, buenos días a todos, buenos días mi amigos, buenos días mi gente.
So I'm going to talk about a vision for the future of healthcare. And some of the ideas I'll talk about are already being implemented now, and I'm sure many of you have heard about them. And some of them I think are a little more futuristic, but I think that they will be coming along in the next decade or 2 decades, 3 decades. We'll see a very big transformation of the healthcare industry. I think that will also lead to a big change in health insurance, which I'll get to toward the end of my presentation. And if I have time, I'll speak a little bit about how hospitals also might change in the future. Okay, so basically my theme is that the world is changing. Things are becoming much more digital. Basically, anything which can be digital is being digitized, including pictures, videos, medical records, lab reports, population statistics, and every possible thing that can be digitized is being done. And the computational power is just incredible nowadays. You can process like reams and reams of data in what would have taken months and months 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Everything is connected, which we'll talk more about, how medical devices can be connected to each other. And everyone has real-time access to anything they want. Like if you want to learn about, for example, my daughter wanted to learn about Hawaii, and she was doing a report about it, and rather than going to a library and spending hours going through textbooks, she could find out about it in about 5 minutes. Reports for her. Let's go to the next slide. So the premise is that healthcare will change fundamentally in the coming years. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to talk about 5 healthcare innovations, some of which are, as I said before, are already being used, and some of them are more futuristic. So the first one, which I want to mention, is body sensors. I think everyone knows a lot about this because like smartphones for many years have been acting as heart rate sensors, and that's one of the first body sensors that became popular. I think that in the coming years, we're also going to see EKG machines that are attached to a watch. And this particular watch band, I should say, is made by Cardia Mobile, that when you press on the white part with one finger, then it takes your EKG. And then it can tell the person if they have normal heart rhythms or fibrillation of some kind. I think we'll see a lot less need for people to go to laboratories, to go to doctors for diagnostic exams. And along those lines, in the last, not that one, same slide. Okay. Continuous glucose monitoring is really giving the person an artificial pancreas, I would say. And by that I mean that it monitors the person's blood sugar level, and it automatically will provide the person with the insulin they need through an automated insulin pump. And I think that there will be many more things like this. And my father, who's a cardiologist, told me that he recently read about a cardiac stent which will monitor the flow of blood through your coronary arteries, and you can watch it on your iPhone, your smartphone. I think there's so much happening here. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, surgical and medical robots. So there are surgical robots already. They've been used for the past 15 years, and they do surgeries in a much less invasive format and much more precise as well. And so far the way that these work is that they enhance the skills of a regular human surgeon, so that the surgeon looks into a screen, kind of like a video game, and he has 2 joysticks, like the old Pac-Man, and he's able to manipulate these robotic arms. So it's really an amazing thing, and it has improved surgeries incredibly. I think it will also lead to telesurgery, if it hasn't done so already, which is similar to telemedicine, but it's that if a hospital has this contraption, and they don't have a surgeon who knows how to perform a certain surgery, then a surgeon in another part of the world can do the surgery for them. And it opens up amazing doors for telemedicine. Also, also what I put in the last bullet is how artificial intelligence can affect medical care. And I think that this robot here, which looks like R2-D2, he probably, over time, will be able to feed a thing like this all the information he would need to know, all the medical textbooks. We could import them into his memory, into his neural network, and he'll be able to digest huge amounts of medical knowledge and then render decisions. And he'll probably do it as well, perhaps better than human doctors. There actually was a machine which passed the Chinese medical licensing exam recently, and it became a doctor, technically. So it's not impossible. Let's go to the next slide. I think it's very, very interesting, and I think a little bit amusing, but it's on its way. They haven't figured it out completely yet. But what this will do is it's a toilet, as you can see, and it in addition to acting as a normal toilet, it's also a fully functioning medical laboratory. So rather than taking a specimen with you to a laboratory and then waiting for a few days to get back information, this will eventually toilets will utilize the information we put into them every day and won't just flush it down the drain. I think that this is happening. There are toilets now. This one that I put here is by Toto, a Japanese company, which doesn't do everything that I just said, but it does take checks your weight, it checks your blood sugar, and maybe your pulse. I'm not sure how to tell it. But we're going to see like in-home laboratories, medical laboratories. And they can also monitor a person's disease. If a person has a disease already, it can monitor how that person is doing over time. Okay, next slide, please. Number 4, the fourth thing I want to talk about is artificial organs. I think that currently it's in many places, and probably most of the world, it's very hard to get an organ when the person needs it. And it's a big hit and miss. You can have like a difficult organ to find, or in some countries, such as where I come from, it's often hard to get organs, like in Israel, because a lot of people don't want to give their organs away, because for religious reasons. And in many other countries, the same way. So I think there are 3D printers which are being developed, which I think in the near future will be able to manufacture an organ when it's needed. And see here, like a heart. I don't think this is a real picture, but down here you see looks like an ear being manufactured, and it can have a fully functioning piece of the human body, which can be then implanted. I think it can also be used eventually to manufacture medications. That we'll see if a hospital doesn't have the medications it needs, it can use like a 3D printer of some sort to manufacture them. It can also manufacture eventually, actually nowadays it can print out medical equipment. If a hospital is missing certain devices, then it can make them on the fly. Go to the next slide. I think this is the last of my innovations for today. And this one is very futuristic, but they are working on it. This is a nano robot, a tiny microscopic robot, which will eventually be injected into the person's bloodstream. I think it might take it about maybe 20, 25 years. But I think it'll have an effect on our children and grandchildren for sure. And it will be able to take measurements of a person's health on a molecular or cellular level. It can diagnose diseases, treat issues, and it can deliver drugs in a very pinpointed way. It'll deliver the drug exactly where it's needed. And I think it'll be able to perform surgeries too eventually on a very, like nanosurgeries. I think that in the second stage, you'll end up having a whole army of these robots inside a person's body, and they'll be able to work together basically autonomously, like independently, to destroy parasites, destroy bacteria, viruses, hopefully cancer cells. They'll be able to wipe them out, cholesterol. This is going to have a huge, huge impact on healthcare. I think we'll see much, much less chronic disease, much less cancer, heart disease, cardiovascular diseases in the next few decades. Okay, next slide. So now I want to just talk about for a few minutes what will happen to healthcare, health insurance. Because there'll be, as you can see, there'll be a lot fewer people who will have chronic diseases, hopefully, with God's help. And I think that health insurance. And health insurance will be a product that helps you maintain your health, rather than a product that will only be there for you when you Re is developing, that the company I work for, and we're a global company. We have business all around basically every continent in the world, and these two products happen to both be in Asia, and they're already being implemented. They're in the early stages, but I think these are really the tip of the iceberg for what we will see with health insurance in the next few decades. So this one here is in Thailand, and it's for insurance for diabetics. And in Asia, I think in a lot of places, but in Asia particularly, diabetes is extremely common. And it's very hard for diabetics to purchase insurance from the private sector. And that's true all around the world, except for countries where there is no medical testing done for insurance. But in countries like Israel, I'm sure in Africa, Asia, it's very hard for someone with diabetes, which is a big part of the population, to purchase insurance. And this product will be, and the app will help you measure the person's food intake, the exercise he does, lifestyle issues, and then there'll also be a way to monitor the person's blood sugar level. So the pricing of the product will be based on the person's blood sugar at that time. So when you apply for the insurance, you'll receive a product that's tailored to particularly you, and you'll have the benefits which make sense for that person based on how well he's controlling his diabetes and what level that the diabetes is on right now. And then every few months, the person will go for a medical test, and then his pricing will be dynamically changed at that time. If he's doing better with his blood sugar and his controlling of the diabetes, it'll go down, and otherwise it might go up or stay the same. So this is an interesting one which is starting, and we're looking for other markets to expand it into. Okay, next one. Okay, the next one is in India. This is somewhat similar to the previous, but this is basically for the whole population, not just a certain segment. And this is a wearable device that is called GoKey, and it's very popular in India. It's one of the most popular wearable device, and it also comes with an app, and it offers health coaching to the person. Like you could talk to a health coach anytime. A person can talk to a doctor. You see how it recognizes the person's food, and it tells you how many calories he's eating. It monitors exercise. It has what they call a health locker, where that maintains all of the person's records in a secure format. And then, finally, for my purposes, for the purposes of the insurance companies, it also has an insurance portal. So part of the app, it will tell the person, we see you're doing very well with your health. We have a certain product that might be just right for you. And it could be any type of life insurance, health insurance, illness insurance. But it'll offer the person a product that's most geared to where he's at, or he or she is at that time. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And one more. Let's skip this one and come back to that. And go to the next slide. Okay. So I want to talk about quickly, because I know a lot of you work in a part of hospitals. I personally, have never worked in a hospital, but I'll try to give an overview of where I see hospitals going in the next, also in the near and middle term future. I think it'll be much more tech enabled. Everything will be connected to each other in the hospital, And the hospital system will be much more focused on data mining, that every piece of data which comes into the hospital through the patients will be fed into like an artificial intelligence system, which will know how to treat the person, diagnose the person. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm not going to go through this whole slide, first of all, because I don't understand a lot of the things here, because I'm not part of a hospital myself, and also because we're probably running low on time. But this is a slide from a company called CB Insights, which is like an aggregator of information about technology startups. And you can see that basically every aspect of the hospital, how the hospital works, will be affected by technology in the coming years. You see care coordination, surgeries, as we discussed, diagnoses, communicating with patients. These are all startup companies which are specializing in these fields. And I think hospitals will be totally different places to be in 10 years, 20 years from now. I think everything will work much smoother. There'll be much less risk of mistakes happening, much less risk of hospital-based infections, and patients will really be monitored like in real time. They won't have to wait for the doctor to arrive to find out to have their medical care provided. Okay, the next slide, almost the last. This is from an insurance company in China called Ping An, and Ping An has been selling health insurance in China for many years, and they have a huge amount of information. Well, every day they have 300 to 400,000 online consultations. They have 150 million online records currently. And what they're doing is they're taking the information and churning through it with artificial intelligence and like building models for the hospitals to use to make healthcare more effective and more affordable. You'll notice here that it says that they will save 3 billion. Might end up with maybe fewer doctors around, but on the other hand, it'll be an efficient system, which apparently they hope will happen, and the doctors will be more involved in like actually acting as consultants to this IT system, which will be able to diagnose and determine the appropriate treatments. So it's futuristic, but I think there's a good chance it will happen. Now let's go back 2 slides to my last slide. Yeah, 2 slides back, yeah. No, one more, that's it, okay. So my last slide, I just wanted to give everyone something to think about before they go to sleep tonight. And it's maybe provocative questions, but I think everyone should really think of themselves as an innovator. And there's nobody in the world who can't think of a good idea. So number 1, what are the greatest unsolved challenges in health? I think there are probably hundreds of them. Just to think about it, and what are the greatest barriers that there are to solving these particular challenges? Number 3, what will be the next big disruption in health insurance for the insurance people here, or in healthcare for the medical people in the audience? What will be the next big thing? And finally, if you had a magic wand, what crazy invention would you invent? Thank you.
I'm sure some of us have questions, and I've been told to entertain just one question for Mr. Eitan Fish from Swiss Re, South Africa. Questions, please. Sorry, is from Israel, forgive me. One question. I mean, are we saying literally that everything he said, is... because I have my questions, but it's not in my place to ask questions, so probably just... Okay, we have a gentleman at the back. Would you mind coming forward, please? Thank you very much, sir. I'll probably exchange this microphone with you. Thank you very much. I apologize. Check.
Good morning.
Check,
It's still
check.
4 minutes to the afternoon. My name is Dr. Hakim Onosanya, and I really enjoy the innovations, and I would say they are putting the future in perspective. But I also wanted to be realistic. I'm a Nigerian, and just like they say, we here are not the real Nigerians. The Nigerians are there in Igboko local government, and the only things their phones can do is receive text messages and make calls. Now, are we putting these people into perspective? And if we're going to put them into perspective, in how many decades' time would that be possible? Because if you say a few decades for developed countries, how many centuries for Nigeria?
Well done.
That's an excellent, excellent question. I really appreciate that. I think that one thing Nigeria has, which other countries don't have, is that because you're starting off from a level which is fairly low compared to the Western world, you can actually bypass a lot of the mistakes that were made in the Western world. And you can just take a leap towards these new technologies, like these surgical robots, for example. They'll be available in the coming years, probably for much less than they are now, and they'll be able to perform telemedicine in a rural community, and also producing medical devices in a place which doesn't have them. It can really be done by 3D printing. It seems crazy and futuristic, but it's not. They're already working on things like that. You just have to download the schematics of that device, and in a few minutes you have the device in front of you. I think that you're in a good position in that way, that you don't have to contend with all the problems, the legacy issues that we have to. I shouldn't say we, because Israel is a bit different, but in the Western world, there are huge of barriers to innovation.
A round of applause for Ethan Fish, please. Thank you very much. I'd like Mr. Obinia Bajwe to please come forward as he presents a plaque of recognition to Ethan. Just get proper pictures this time around. Thank you very much, Ethan Fish. I'm sure some people are going home, and some very spiritual ones amongst us are already casting and binding every. Will I be able to hear with the ear? So we're having artificial organs now. I saw a smart toilet, and I saw body sensors, and this is absolutely amazing. I remember, guys, I don't know if at all most of us do. There's a particular bank that is now merged with another bank. There's a particular ad they ran in 2009 and the 10 thereabout. They said, someday cars will run on water. I don't want to mention the name of that bank, but I'm sure some of us do. I think this particular way ahead. I think Ethan Fish deserves a round of applause. One more time, please. Thank you very much. Well done, Ethan. Ethan is coming to Nigeria for the 3rd time, right? And you already have a 1-year full visa to come to Nigeria. Nice. So, do you have a Nigerian name? Babajide Fish. No human being has called my name better. That's the plaque. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As the people say, Babajide Guerrero. Horrible people just call my name. And I see the way Oyinbo called my name. I want to be born again. Like I want to enter my mother and come out again. They tell me, my name is Babajide Fish. Nice. I like. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you're looking live from the city of Lagos, Nigeria. It is the conference that is the mother of every other conference in the country, Nigeria, as regards medical and, of course, everything medical in this type out of the world. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Healthcare Nigeria Conference 2018. Now to take us to another level for next 10, 12 minutes as we continue. Of course, remember that there is an official visit to the exhibition right behind us. We'll be cutting that ribbon very, very shortly. And then we'll, as well, we're going for lunch as well. But please put your hands together for to give us on primary healthcare, the bedrock of accessible healthcare for all. Representing Dr. Faisal Shuaib, the DG of the NPHCDA.
I would like to start this presentation from the historical perspective. How did we even come about the healthcare in Nigeria? This started from colonial masters, the British explorers, and it actually started with the treatment of those in the army. And it was only in 1975 that the third National Development Plan for the period of 1975 to 1980 actually demarcated the first conscious effort to develop a health system based on identified national health needs, and that actually marked the beginning of primary healthcare approach in Nigeria. So, what is this primary healthcare? We all know the generic definition, which is the essential healthcare based on practical, made universally accessible through full participation of the people at the cost they can maintain and in the spirit of self-reliance. But how can we actually simplify this? We can use the definition of democracy to say primary healthcare is health of the people, with the people, for the people, and by the people. So with this, we can see that being essential care, it must be a priority, must be scientifically based, must have universal coverage. Everyone must have access to it. People must be involved, must be sustainable, and must be owned by people. And from this, let me remind you of the strategies, the principles of primary health care. They are community participation, intersectoral collaboration, affordable, appropriate technology, equity, and social justice. And at the beginning of this program, someone alluded to the fact that mental health has been added. So, initially we started with 8 components of primary health care. We have additional 2, oral health and mental health. We still have the health education, nutrition, immunization, treatment of minor ailments, maternal, child health, and newborn care, including family planning. We have provision of essential drugs and control of locally endemic diseases. Now, we talk about the universal coverage. The universal coverage, what this means is all must have access to the health care they need without suffering any financial hardship. Next. This slide is reminding you about the 17 sustainable goals. Next one. Sustaining health care. We have, and ensuring that primary health care is actually the bedrock and should be the bedrock. We have some forms of ideals and what we are, what is happening now. Like we have the ideals that primary health care should be the first level of contact of patients with the National Health Service. But what do we have now? We have many that actually patronize the patent medicine vendors, secondary health care, tertiary and private hospitals, including the traditional birth attendants. Another one is that primary health care should provide the general health service of preventive, curative, and rehabilitative nature of services. But what do we concentrate on now? Immunization and antenatal care services. and services should be rendered by primary healthcare workers. Yes, they are being rendered, but without adequate equipment to actually perform all these qualitative services and without any motivation. Then primary healthcare services should be delivered at the health centers. Yes, they are being delivered at the so-called health centers, but the health centers are virtually empty. And primary healthcare should not only be a rural healthcare service, it's been tagged rural healthcare service. It should not be basic healthcare services. We refer to it as very basic service. Not low level of care, but we refer to it as being the low level of care. Should not be of low quality, but then what we have now is poor quality of care. And it's not just for developing countries, but it's a developing country model of ensuring that all have access to care. Now, what are the problems? We have some problems in ensuring that primary health care is the bedrock. We have poor and disintegrated services, low demand, poor access, poor utilization, and poor indicators. Additional challenges. Everyone is doing everything and no one does it well. And that will give us ineffectiveness and inefficiency. No coordination across all the 3 tiers of government. That will ensure that we don't have any referral, no feedback as evidence of having referred people from one level to another. And one of the most important challenges we have is we are aid-dependent health sector, technically and financially. And the implication is that responsibility for domestic funding and efficient resource use no government will actually be responsible for, health is on the concurrent list. If you ask the local government to do this, the local government authority will just be wondering how will they get the money. Then we have faulty public service, the philosophy and commitment with huge impact on primary health care. Our accountability system, the public pressure for doing wrong things, as we had listened to in the previous presentations. Now, what do we need to actually strengthen primary health care system in Nigeria? We all need all our efforts to be coordinated for primary health care to be under one roof. That is coordinated leadership for primary health care under one roof strategy, providing the right health facility. You could see the type of health facilities presented by the first presenter, and providing the right package of integrated interventions for care to receive the right care and being now. We have this as a mistake. So at the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, what are we goals. We have the goal of controlling preventable diseases, improving access to basic healthcare services, improve quality of care, strengthen the institution, develop high-performing health workforce, strengthen partnership, as well as strengthen community engagement. We are also planning to ensure that all primary healthcare services are being revitalized in order to be able to effectively provide facility and community-based services. And as I've mentioned to you, of community services and demand creation. Percent immunization coverage for all antigens in Nigeria. And as we have NERIC, that is the national emergency, we also have SERIC, that is the state emergency, and we have down to the local government. On CHIPS, what is CHIPS? The CHIPS is community, we can see the overall objective of this community health influencer and promoter program is to improve access and equitable coverage to healthcare services, especially for those that of the CHIPS program. Next slide. You can see that the adaptation is actually to prevent the 3 delays in seeking health care, in making decision on time, in reaching, delay in reaching the health care, and also delay in receiving health care. You can see how the CHIP agent, the patient will relate to the CHIP agent, and the CHIP agent will relate with the midwife, the community health workers, down to the health facility. Next one. And another thing we are also investing on is this Nigeria State Health Investment Project, NSHIP. So we have the focus of NSHIP. You can see the orb it radiates on. Next slide. Then how NSHIP is making primary health care to work in Nigeria. You can see through strengthened governance and leadership at all levels, improved infrastructural development, improved human resource for health, the health worker motivation aspect, responsive service delivery, improved quality of care and referral system, drugs and medical material supply, promotion of equality and equity in access to health care, funding and community participation and ownership. So how can you join us as we are in this August gathering? You can join us by assisting to advocate for a complete overhaul of the roles and responsibilities and financial arrangement for the 3 levels of healthcare. Advocate for implementation of primary healthcare under one roof concept in all the states, because there are still some states that are yet to key into that. Then demand that all arms of government recognize and make immunization funding an issue of urgent national importance. Support states for Health Insurance Scheme and the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency to function. Support the definition of roles and responsibilities of various cadres of health workers. Bring issues of quality care at the primary healthcare level high on agency and establish mechanisms to reward provision of quality care. And you can also join us by advocating for payment of salaries of frontline health workers in states where primary healthcare system has been altered by political interest and economic problems. In addition, you can see other ways you can join us. So, in view of the fact that primary health care can be summarized as health of the people, with the people, for the people, and by the people, it is incontrovertible that primary health care is the platform, is the foundation, is the pillar, the core, the base. And also, for primary health care to be the bedrock of health for all, it must be available. It must be affordable. It must be available. It must be accessible. As primary school is accessible to all, so also primary health care should be accessible. Without primary school, you can't go to secondary school. Let it be for primary health care. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oyesi. Thank you very much, ma'am. Brilliant. Very well thought of delivery and documented speech. One more time, please. Dr. Oyesi, please put your hands together for her. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very beautiful next 30 minutes. Yes, may I also inform you that the Wi-Fi password for the event is on. Please do well to drop down the Wi-Fi mode on your phone and type in internet. That's the password, internet. I think it should be Oriental Internet. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, on the discussion table this beautiful afternoon, before we head straight for exhibition, for the next 10, 12 minutes, I give you a Lady Fisayo Okunsoya. She's from the Medical Credit Fund. Forgive me, Mr. Fisayo Okunsoya. Thank you very much. Oh, it's even someone I know. I'm sure he won't forgive me. Please put your hands together for Mr. Fisayo Okunsoya. You know that weird moment where you know people by their faces, but not by their names? Exactly. This is a perfect example. I'm sure he won't forgive me soon. So he'll be talking to us on financing your healthcare business for the next 10, 12 minutes. And right after that, we'll go straight to the exhibition. And particularly, Private Cancer Center in Nigeria is actually right there. And I saw it and I was particularly excited. Thank you very much. I apologize, Mr. Fisayo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have about 12 minutes, so I'll just go. Can I have the pointer? I'd like to control it myself. The pointer. Oh, okay. Okay, so my name is Fisayo Okunsoya. I head the Medical Credit Fund in Nigeria. I'm just going to be talking about innovative options for financing your healthcare business. I'm just going to talk. Are you ready? Okay, so just to share a few of the things we're doing at PharmAccess, let's play this video and then it's about 2 minutes and then I'll take 10 minutes to talk. We do about healthcare businesses. We look at the healthcare industry in terms of demand side, supply side. And demand side involves obviously those that pay for healthcare. And supply side involves those that provide healthcare services. And if you break it down into that, then you now begin to get a good view of the healthcare industry. Now, we advocate for quality for healthcare providers. There's nobody here that wants to go to a hospital and they cannot do basic things, right? We all have that case of misdiagnosis. We all have heard of that case of not getting treatment protocols right. So we advocate in everything. However, in order to achieve a certain level of quality, financing is required. And this is where we come in. Now, in order to finance, can you just put up my presentation, sorry? In order to finance that quality, or in the course of financing quality improvement in healthcare facilities, we've learned a few things. The first thing is that typical financial institutions do not want to touch healthcare businesses, especially hospitals. They don't even want to fund healthcare assets. They call them specialized assets. And I always make a joke, and it's not so funny, but it's a joke when I'm with finance people, that if I wanted to buy a Toyota Corolla, which is now about 15 to 17 million, by the way, and I went to a bank to get a loan, they'll give me a loan based on where I work, right? And it's done. We lease it 60 months. It's done, or 48 months, as the case may be. However, if I wanted to buy an ultrasound machine, and I went to the same bank, and I was even willing with some equity contribution, they'll say it's a specialized asset. And my question is, if you look at the population of Nigeria, how many people will ever use a Toyota Corolla versus how many people will use an ultrasound? Then you begin to see that there's a problem in our perception of what risk is and what is not. There's something Claire Marshall always says that I laugh at, you know. Well, it's not funny, but I laugh. That a theater light is classified as a chandelier, as luxury light. And you find out that there's a problem when you want to sort of develop your healthcare facility. There's really a problem in the financial provider's perspective of what risk is. So can you move to the next slide? Okay, move to the next slide. So what we found, and I'll start with a bit of accounting, you know, so I know that we're on the same page. I can spot those of you that don't like numbers, but just a bit of accounting. So there's this accounting formula that says assets is equal to liability plus equity. Very simple. Assets are what you own. Liabilities are what you owe on your balance sheet. And it can be your hospital or your life. Equity is basically like a cushion that helps you absorb losses, right? So if your equity is 20 naira, if you make a loss of 10 naira, your equity allows you to continue business next year without being a gone concern. Now, if you had a business idea to set up, say, an accident and emergency unit on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and it will cost 100 million to set up, what's the first source of, sorry, I'm not a speaker, I'm a teacher, so calm down. What's the first source of revenue, or first source of capital? Anybody? Sorry? Your personal money, right? Your savings or everything, friends and family, enemies, anybody that can give you something, right? So that's your asset. Now, remember that equity is what so that's your equity, sorry. Now you want to fund your asset. You want to fund that thing, your building and everything. If your asset is not up to 100 billion, what do you do? Liability, what you owe. So you go get a loan, right? Next slide. Now, in trying to get a loan, what we've discovered, and this is what banks, not me, but what banks have said about doctors, right? These doctors are no businessmen. Hospitals lack financial transparency. Doctors only do pocket banking, which means that by the time the guy wants to buy a CT scan and finish analyzing the credit, and we say your debt service coverage ratio, which is your ability to repay debt, is not enough to take this payment, the guy will remember he has one account somewhere. I have this other account that I divert funds to. That's pocket banking, where you don't put all your flows in one place, maybe for the tax man, maybe for whatever reason. And so we cannot give you a loan because money is everywhere, all over the place. Financial records are not in the place. And can't find time to come to the bank to submit documents. I don't understand their business or their cash flow, and that's one of the major problems. That typical financial institutions don't understand the business of healthcare, right? Next slide. And so this is what the doctors have said about the bankers. That the bankers do not understand healthcare, and it's not a lie. In fact, up till now, bankers so nobody wants to touch healthcare. So there's this gap in healthcare, even funding viable private sector business. And now I'm just saying an MRI. Imagine what a linear accelerator is. Even though there are 300,000 new cases of cancer that are discovered in this country every year, and then we have only one functional LINAC. Thank God for the second one. On the banking side. So investments don't flow, and there's just that gap. So what we've done is to create a fund that creates comfort. Next slide. That fund creates comfort, right? I won't go into it because I don't have a lot of time. Now, comfort is in form of technical assistance on one side to show the other man that you can really trust healthcare. Healthcare is a business. So the first thing we've proven in Medical Credit Fund is that healthcare practitioners will pay back their loan. Because we have a 99% payback rate on our portfolio. That's the best portfolio in any bank that we work with. So we have proven that healthcare practitioners will pay back their loan. And that concept awakened many other financial partners to say, okay, let me look at what you are doing and let's look at how we can now be a part of it. Now, one of the major problems is capacity development. In Nigeria, it would seem that the business of healthcare is not part of the curriculum when doctors are being taught, right? And so that's all those things, and it's a bit strange, but we set up a program called the Health Management Center. In the safe care methodology, which is born from COSASA and JCI, where topics like understanding the demand side and macroeconomics are being taught to doctors, right? So when that video is ready, please let me know. You can just play it. So the idea is, how can we help this ecosystem while we are providing technical assistance, while we are giving loans, right? And Dr. Olamide Okulaja, my colleague, spoke about some of the innovations we've set up where we are actually giving loans close to single digits, but under closed schemes, where we're working on innovation pharmacies, while we are also working on all that, we are also doing capacity development. Some of the people in this room are partners now, partners that we are going to work with to ensure that the ecosystem is stronger and able to deliver better outcomes for the Nigerian patients. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this video of what we did from last year to March on our first health management program. Now, they are hydra-headed. They are not issues that you can attack with one intervention. So we attack them from health insurance, which is what Dr. Okulaja spoke about. We attack them from financing. We attack them from the quality aspect, and we attack them from the capacity aspect. In the end, what we're trying to do is build an innovative ecosystem that can ensure that everybody who comes to the table with the right intentions gets the best out of it. And as we come together, we now influence policy so that the custom stops seeing a theater light as a chandelier, so that all those things can start to change. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And Fisayo, please, I would like you to please move to the middle. I would like to invite Mr. Obini Abajue at this time to hand over the plaque. A day. What a phenomenal day. You have a question. Okay, so just one question then. So I think they love you so much they will still want to see your face.
I was expecting you to go into details on how you can assist doctors to get the loans.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, please give me a round of applause. Good question. Have a checklist of things that include your current certificate and license, right? Any issues, right? That include a business plan. Now, a good business plan that forces you to think through the parameters of your product, of your project, a technical and a financial plan. You submit it to us, we check for the assumptions, your bank statements. Now, let me say this about your bank statements. You must value the relationship with your bank and treat it like a relationship for the future, right? So if you have one bank or 3 banks, it doesn't matter. But this idea of not banking 100% of your income is going to hurt only you, right? So we've had many cases where the doctor doesn't bank 100% of his income under the company name. We can't accept it because the first C of credit is character, right? And so, because we work with banking partners, they're going to say, look, this is a bad loan from day one. The man is hiding some money from someone. You know, so we found cases where the doctor could take a loan, but because the other money was going into his personal account, it didn't happen. So we have that list, and we can talk. Anybody, please, I'm going to be in the booth at the back after, you know. And once, if it's an equipment, even easier, you know. We take it to the bank, we do our due diligence, the bank gives an offer letter, and you get your loan. I'll give you the example of done, and just in private sector. So we don't do pure public sector, we do public-private partnerships. For instance, we just a transaction at the National Orthopedic Center for an MRI. And you know that an MRI is that expensive. So we do up to that. We do up to 2.5 million US in transactions. So, I mean, there's no national character or federal character. There's no, I want to give you the loan as much as you want to receive it. So we can talk after.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what a day. It's been an absolutely enthralling day here. I want to thank someone especially. Someone who this morning, regardless of where he or she was coming from, braced the traffic. Someone who this morning, regardless of breakfast or not, came here. Someone who this morning, regardless of whatever it is happening in the country, good or bad, came here still to honor this particular brand, the Healthcare Nigerian Conference 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, that someone is you looking at me right now. I think you deserve a round of applause. This is for yourself now. Thank you. And then again, we also must thank quite extensively our speakers and our presenters and our moderators as well. Remember that this particular grand conference continues tomorrow. Yes, it does, definitely. This time at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And one of the top features of this particular conference is that there is an exhibition and then there is a breakout session. If you follow me to page 6 of your program, you will get to see that there's a breakout session right after lunch. So what that means is the first session, Managing Your Healthcare Business for Sustainability, will be handled by Dr. Olamide Okulaja from Farm Access. That one will be done in the function room 1. That's from the main lobby, the first floor. If you've registered for the breakout session, so you will be going there right after lunch. And session 2 will see effective collation and monitoring of healthcare data, EMR and analytics. Pranay Krag, of course, founder HealthCon India. It will be in functions room 2. So it's functions room 1 and 2. They are placed on the wall when you get up there, first floor from the main lobby. That's the venue for the breakout sessions. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, remember that this event is live on social media. Hashtag Healthcare Nigeria. We will be here tomorrow. Follow, mention, and like our post on Twitter at Healthcare NC. You can do well to tweet us as well. Instagram at the Healthcare NC. Tweet your experience to win amazing likes and, of course, win a free voucher for a mobile spa. And speaking about free voucher, that free voucher can only be seen at the mobile spa at the exhibition. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you all to please come with us. When I mean us, I mean the gentleman, the man who has been handing a lot of plaques to everyone here today, Mr. Obinia Bajwe, and the lady and the woman that will be doing us the honor of cutting the blue ribbon at the exhibition center will be Mrs. Claire Omacheye. Mrs. Claire Omacheye is the president, Healthcare Federation, and the founder of the JNCI, of course, the medical equipment franchise. And right after that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a lot of information to take in. But after the cutting, we then proceed to have lunch. The ushers will be there to direct us to the grand ballroom. It is straight up to our left. Of course, that's Mrs. Claire Omacheye. Of course, they will be moving out together. And once they are done and dusted, we all can follow them to go cut the ribbon. And then for the official exhibition, there are some amazing facilities there, some amazing feel there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been the voice of the gilt-edged superstar MC, Babajide Guerrero, and I will see you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we? The exhibition is awaiting as well as lunch. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. Do well to please pick up your bags. And remember, if you've registered for tomorrow, just keep your badges because you'll be needing them for tomorrow's. We don't need to do any registration for you tomorrow. Just keep your badges, keep your name tags, keep your, of course, your bags, and of course, your Nigeria, Healthcare Nigeria Conference 2018 gadgets. All right, so I'll see you all at the exhibition, and then I'll see you all for lunch. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless Nigeria.